Well, hello everyone. This is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. I know I've got a couple other things going on my channel right now, but today I wanted to share with you a pen and paper role-playing game that's really captured my imagination recently. It's called Marvel Heroic Role-Playing. I must tell you right away that I wasn't the biggest comic book reader growing up. I read the occasional comic when I was at home sick from school. My mother would pick up a couple of comic books and bring them home and let me read when I was sitting in bed with a fever and eating chicken soup or something. Some of my childhood favorites were Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and the Incredible Hulk. When I got a little older, I started reading a little bit of the X-Men, but not too much, just kind of a random comic here and there. I guess I really haven't started reading comics here until, I guess, over the last year. And that was largely due to this book. So I really started reading some more comics when I first ordered the PDF of this game. I just found it very interesting, and it kind of made me want to learn more about these different heroes and kind of see what they were up to these days. So, Marvel Heroic Role-Playing, let's take a look and see what this game is all about. I think the best place to start is to talk about the core mechanic. This is a game about telling stories and forming dice pools to help determine what happens next in the story. So when you're playing this game, you declare what your intent is before you pick up any dice. So it's very heavy on the storytelling here. You decide what you're going to do, and usually it's going to be fitting with your character and what their abilities are. After you've declared what your intent is, you run down your character sheet, which is called a data file, and you start to add dice to form a pool of dice. And you add dice to this pool that are from appropriate traits. So these are different things on the character sheet that would be relevant to the action that you're attempting. Once you form this pool of dice, you roll them all, and you set aside any dice that came up with a 1, a result of 1. Any dice that come up with a 1 can be used by the opposition, your enemy, against you. So those can't really help you out. So you need to look at the other dice. And out of your pool of dice, you may roll anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 dice at a time. You choose two of those dice, and you add them together to get your total. So we're now around, step 4. There's such a thing called a plot point. Some other games call them hero points or whatever. You have a limited supply of these plot points, and if you want to spend one of those plot points, then you can add another one of those dice to your total. So normally when you roll all of these dice, you're only going to take 2 to form your total, like a 12. But if you spend a plot point, maybe you're going to add another dice in there, and you're going to have a 19 for your result. So you may or may not have a plot point to use, and if you do, you may or may not want to spend it at that time. It just depends. But this forms your total. Now, the interesting part here, where it gets a little different from other role-playing games, is you choose one die for your effect, but it doesn't matter what's on that dice, what you rolled. So you've got these different dice. We've got a 1 here. We're going to set that aside. But you've got these other dice. Let's say you took your 8 and your 6, and that's going to be your total. And then you've got these two. Well, a 10-sided dice is a greater dice. It has more sides on it than a 6-sided dice. So this is the more valuable die. So we're going to put that little 6 aside, and we're going to say that the one die we choose for our effect is going to be a 10-sided dice. It doesn't matter that there's a 2 on it. It just matters what kind of die it is. And that represents basically how successful you were, or what kind of effect your action had. And once again, you can spend a plot point to choose an additional effect die. For example, this is your total, and we had a 6 before. But let's say I want my action to target 2 enemies. Maybe there are a couple of villains I need to target with my power, and I'm going to choose 2 different effect dice. So I've got a D10 and a D6. So whatever I hit with a D10 is going to take more damage than whatever I chose to do a D6 of damage to. Because damage in this game is tracked by die type. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later. So after you get your total and select your effect die, you declare what your total is, what your effect die is, and then you announce if you rolled any ones. And then the watcher, this is the game master, which is usually your opposition, rolls the dice in opposition. So they're going to have their own dice pool. He or she's going to be rolling dice against you, just like you rolled your dice for your action. And then you're going to compare. And basically you're looking to see which one has the higher total. And then once you determine who had the higher number, you then look to see how effective the attack was, or the action was. So I think before we had chosen a D10. Let me talk a little bit more about the effect die when we take a look at a data file.